We all saw it. The poisoned cup. The choking boy. The dwarf condemned. Joffrey Baratheon's murder is the most satisfying death in Game of Thrones. But our satisfaction is the perfect cover for the truth. What if the purple wedding wasn't one plot, but four? What if the killer who dropped the poison was just the final piece in a conspiracy built by enemies, allies, and even his own family? This is the story of the day. Everyone in King's Landing decided the king must die. A king is dead. The murder weapon is poison. So who had the poison? Who had the motive? And who had the access to drop it in his cup? The answer is the family smiling beside him on the dais. The Tyrells came to King's Landing for power. They got a monster. Margaery Tyrell was a player, but even she couldn't play Joffrey. At the wedding itself, he revealed his true nature, publicly humiliating Tyrion, cutting up a priceless book, threatening violence. For Lady Olenna Tyrell, the calculation was instant. This boy would hurt her granddaughter. He would destabilize the alliance. He was a bad investment. Olenna's plot was simple, brutal, and required one external tool, the poison. The Strangler crystal came hidden in Sansa Stark's hairnet, delivered by the fool, Ser Dantos. But Olenna was the one who retrieved it. In the chaos of the feast, with a touch to Sansa's hair, she armed herself. She had the access. She was seated at the high table. When Joffrey knocked over the wine, when the chalice was on the floor, who was there? Who could have dropped the crystal into the depths of that cup? Olenna's motive was survival. Her method was opportunity. But she did not act alone. She needed the poison. And for that, she needed a partner who dealt in secrets, not roses. The Queen of Thorns pruned the problem. But who sold her the shears? Littlefinger did not hate Joffrey. He found him useful. But Joffrey was becoming a liability, unpredictable, uncontrollable, and a threat to the very chaos Littlefinger needed to climb. His plot wasn't just about killing a king. It was about orchestrating the aftermath. He provided the critical pieces. First, the poison. The Strangler crystals came from his stock, originally from Lysa Arryn in the Vale. Second, the mule. He reactivated the drunken Night Seer, Dantos hollered, using him to deliver the poisoned hairnet to Sansa Stark, the perfect oblivious carrier. Third, the narrative. He ensured Sansa, the key to the north, would be present and implicated, making her desperate for rescue. His rescue. Littlefinger's genius was in making every other conspirator serve his goal. The Tyrells removed a threat. He gained Sansa Stark and framed his enemy Tyrion. He turned a regicide into a 2-for-1 deal, a monstrous king and a clever dwarf, both removed in one stroke. He wasn't just a co-conspirator. He was the producer of the play, casting each role perfectly. Littlefinger set the stage and handed out the scripts. But for his play to work, it needed a main character to take the fall, someone whose guilt would be so believable. No one would look for the directors. The poison is placed, the stage is set. But a perfect crime needs a perfect culprit. Someone whose guilt is so obvious, so believable, that it ends the investigation before it begins. The conspiracy didn't just need a Patsy, it needed a protagonist. Tyrion Lannister was the conspiracy's masterpiece of framing. He didn't plot, he was plotted against. His role was sealed long before the wedding, through his very public, very justified hatred of Joffrey. He had threatened the king, wished him dead, and been humiliated by him moments before the poisoning. The conspirators didn't need to plant evidence. They just needed to point at the evidence Tyrion had already created with his own life. Think about the scene. Who picks up the poisoned chalice from the floor? Tyrion, who pours the wine. Tyrion, who is handed the cup by Joffrey with the command, "Fill it up." Tyrion. Every move he makes, guided by circumstance and propriety, is another thread in the noose being woven around his neck by unseen hands. He was the essential distraction. While the court's outrage focused on the imp, the obvious monster, the real monsters in fine silks and polished smiles faded into the background. Olenna could grieve. Littlefinger could flee, because Tyrion's guilt was a story everyone, especially Cersei, was already desperate to believe. The Patsy is condemned. The killers are safe. But there is one last, chilling question. In a castle of spies, could a conspiracy this large go entirely unnoticed by the most powerful man in Westeros, or did the real power simply look away? The pawn, the broker, and the scapegoat. The conspiracy seems complete. But in the Red Keep, nothing happens without the knowledge, or at least the permission, of one man. The question isn't just who plotted it, who allowed the plot to succeed. Tywin Lannister's sole purpose was the enduring power of his house, and Joffrey was becoming its greatest threat. He publicly mocked Tywin, undermined his authority, and showcased a sadistic instability that risked the vital Tyrell alliance. Joffrey was a flawed weapon, liable to blow up in the smith's hand. Now, consider Varys. The Master of Whisperers certainly knew of the plot. His little birds were in the walls of Littlefinger's brothels and the Tyrell chambers. The critical, unanswerable question: did Varys tell Tywin? If he did, Tywin faced a choice: save his monstrous grandson and expose the conspiracy, or let the tragedy play out and secure a more pliable heir. Tywin's actions after the murder are telling. There is no furious inquest to find the true conspirators. There is swift, decisive action. He immediately secures Tommen, reaffirms the Tyrell marriage, and pushes through Tyrion's trial with ruthless efficiency. He doesn't seek justice. He manages the outcome. He exchanges a volatile king for a docile one, preserves the alliance, and removes a son he considers a shameful liability all in one stroke. Tywin may not have given the order, but by likely knowing and choosing not to act, he became the conspiracy's most powerful enabler. He didn't kill Joffrey. He simply retired him. So, who really plotted to kill Joffrey? Lady Olenna Tyrell plotted for survival. She removed a clear and present danger to her bloodline. Littlefinger plotted for chaos and opportunity. He engineered the means and the frame to profit from the ruins. Tyrion Lannister was plotted against to be the perfect, believable culprit who would draw all fire. And Tywin Lannister likely plotted through calculated inaction, sacrificing a flawed king for a stable dynasty. They were not a cabal, they were a convergence. Different motives, different actions, all silently aligned on one target. The Purple Wedding wasn't an assassination. It was a corporate restructuring of the Iron Throne, with Joffrey as the unanimously voted out CEO. This is how power really works in King's Landing.